I now give the floor to the representative of Sri Lanka.
Madam President, let me congratulate the Russian Federation for its assumption of the presidency of the Security Council for the month of July. Madam President, this Council was briefed today on the horrific human costs of this conflict in no uncertain terms. As the chair of the United Nations Special Committee to investigate Israeli practices affecting the human rights of the Palestinian people and other Arabs of the occupied territories, I had the opportunity of visiting the largest refugee camp in Amman on the 22nd of last month, the Baka camp. The visit was also conducted during a time when an ongoing deadly campaign against the Palestinians is being waged by security forces and settlers in the West Bank, with over 500 Palestinians being killed since the 7th of October 2023, with one out of 5 being children. To date, there have been 37,431 people killed in Gaza, with over 85,653 injured due to the sustained attack on the people, damage to civilian infrastructure, hospitals, educational facilities, religious sites of worship, and serious disruption of all aspects of cultural and social life. The violent assault on Gaza has been indiscriminate, disproportionate, and callous in nature, cutting off the most needed resources, including food, water, electricity, fuel, medical supplies, and reproductive healthcare products in order to subjugate, dehumanize, and collectively punish the Palestinian civilian population. The stakeholders briefed us as to the numbers of Palestinians being currently held in large numbers in prisons and detention centers, with no access to family, nor the International Committee of the Red Cross, nor to the protections of the procedures established by international law. Now, these include thousands of Palestinians detained from Gaza, many of whom are held incommunicado for months and often in stressed positions. While it is hard to verify the figures, the committee was informed that thousands of Palestinians, security prisoners, were being held in unhygienic, overcrowded conditions with no access to basic human necessities. Throughout this visit, we learned of the continued and increased systematic targeting of women and children by the security forces, with those killed comprising a high proportion of children. Multiple stakeholders reported a stark increase in sexual harassment, sexual abuse, the threat of rape, and rape itself, including with foreign objects, as well as intimidation through the use of dogs by Israeli security forces. The committee is shocked by these horrific violations and the levels of impunity for Israeli soldiers that engaged in dehumanizing behavior, with security personnel publicly and shamelessly sharing photos on social media platforms that aim to mock, shame, and brutalize the sexual identities of Palestinian women. The Palestinians also experienced a stepped-up campaign of food deprivation, starvation, in an effort to punish a people who were already food insecure. This policy, Madam President, has included a complete siege of the Gaza Strip since the 9th of October, using food as a weapon of war, targeting individuals looking for humanitarian assistance, destroying food production and circulation systems, not enabling an environment for effective humanitarian aid delivery. Madam President, the Security Council must take cognizance of the impact of the war in Gaza which has an impact on future generations, including their physical and mental health. The conflict will leave, we say, a legacy of transgenerational trauma, which no current psychosocial support exists in Gaza due to the targeting of healthcare workers and facilities. The Special Committee also made aware of the psychological impact that's been carrying out on military orders was having upon young Israeli soldiers who have to live with the consequences of their actions far beyond the current conflict. Madam President, the Security Council must also be deeply concerned by reports of artificial intelligence being deployed by Israeli military forces in the war in Gaza. It has been reported that this technology has contributed to the staggering number of civilian deaths who are deemed collateral damage, as AI programs have moved to identify anyone who could be a potential target through a system of mass surveillance. The occupation of Palestine and the apartheid system of injustice that serves it cannot continue if there is ever to be a lasting peace between Israelis and Palestinians. As a first step, we called on Israel and Palestinians' armed groups to urgently agree to a lasting ceasefire. Madam President, a sense of frustration amongst many is that action is tolerated and even assisted by developed nations. Madam President, the continuing hostilities in Gaza poses very pertinent questions to all of us. Do these events mean that if a country by omission or commission causes the deaths of thousands of civilians and close to 200 UN staff, it can carry on regardless if the powers that can be back their actions? Does international law then apply to those who do not have the powers to defy its dictates? Madam President, it is a fact that outside these walls, the Security Council has the primary responsibility for peace and international security in accordance with Article 12 and 24, is subject to increasing public pressure to do something decisive. Sri Lanka calls for the implementation of Security Council Resolution 2720 and calls on all parties to cooperate with the UN mechanism established by the resolution to provide humanitarian relief to the Gaza Strip. Madam, may I finish with a poem by the poet Elena Bell, a Brooklyn-based poet inspired by interviews in Israel, Palestine, and America. And this is how it goes. Once in a village that is burning, because a village is always somewhere burning. And if you do not look beyond, because it is not your village, it is still your village. In that village is a hollow child. You drown when he looks at you with his black eyes. And if you do not cry because he is not your child, he is still your child. All the animals that could run away have run away. The trapped ones make an orchestra of their hunger. The houses are in ruin, nothing grows. In the garden, the grandfather's grave is there, a small stone, under the shade of a charred oak tree. Who will brush off the dead leaves? Who will call his name for morning prayer? Where will they go? The ones who slept in this house and ate from this dirt. Madam Chair, let us think about those words, images, or ideas stand out, how it works out for us and the Security Council in this beautiful little poem. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Sri Lanka for his statement. And